What is completely legal, but still a dick move? Taking something out of someone's shopping cart. My wife once had her entire shopping cart stolen. She picked up an item and turned around and the entire cart was gone. Why? Just why? My wife was still in the store and hadn't paid for anything yet. She got an empty basket and shopped all over again. LMFAO, just the imagery is hilarious. Grand theft cart. Sometimes I get the last mini cart at Kroger and have to immediately pee when I get inside the store. So I sit the cart outside the restroom and worry someone's going to steal my cart. It's happened only once, but I swear it's tempered me for a life of being on guard in the pisser. Sit in a parking spot and just tap your brakes every once in a while so people trying to park think you're leaving, then just lay back and watch their reaction. Calm down, Satan. Do this in the month of December. Face with tears of joy at a mall. Seriously, Satan. Calm down. Since my friend got mugged. Apparently, robbing someone for something worth less than $500 just means you get to fly off the radar for a while, perfect for making up the difference in a bill. So, we had accurate descriptions of the guys, the exact address of the apartment they emerged from with a knife, and the detective said, "We don't have any previous reports, so we'll just keep your complaint on file." WTF? Luckily, the guy was dumb enough to commit the same crime twice and finally got charged and arrested. If you get your car stereo stolen, the cops will give you a case number to claim insurance, but they will do nothing to find the actual thief. The cop investigating my case actually said this. My uncle had his car stereo stolen several times in the 80s. The second last time it happened, his neighbor took him aside and told him to tape razor blades to the bottom of it. It was a radio you had to lift up and pull out of the dash. Well, he took the advice. 2 days later he came out in the morning to find the driver's side seat and door covered in blood, but his stereo was still there. I asked him why, if it was so easy to steal, he didn't just take it out himself at night, and all he did was shrug and say that he was lazy and wanted to teach the thief a lesson. To take up the handicap stall when someone just behind you needs it. It happened to me when I had chronic pain so bad that I could barely walk. When I noticed the kid in front of me going for it, I raised my voice while politely asking them to use a different stall. When he locked the door, I immediately understood why old people look like they want to throw their cane like a spear when a teenager does something mildly irritating. Oh man. I walked into an empty bathroom at the movies recently and went to the first urinal, the children's one. I'm doing what I do, door opens behind me. I finish and turn around, and there's this child behind me looking like he's about to pee himself waiting for me. Buying a person's debt, lien or mortgage, using the loan agreement clause that allows for abrupt changes to the terms and conditions and calling for either the entire debt in 60 to 90 days or eviction or forfeiture of an asset. Now this is going to be an interesting research hole. Tell me more please. Try watching John Oliver's piece on Last Week Tonight on Debt Buyers. Funny and interesting show, with a great ending smiley face. Being a gold digger. As someone who made a humble living digging for gold at Sutter's Mill in the early 1850s, I take offense to this. I know, right? I didn't pack up my mule and spend 3 months heading out California way, get scammed out of my pemmican by an Indian tribe, get scammed again on a bad steak, and then scrimp and save the little bit that I made on gold to get in on the upcoming oil boom, to be called a dick by some internet punks. Stealing a parking space someone else was waiting for. Once I saw an empty spot and turned my signal on. Some douche came around the corner just as I was turning into the space and he got all pissed off at me. Excuse me that I saw it first and I had my signal on. No reason to be a dick. Same thing happened to me, and then he threatened to call the cops on me. Please, call the cops. Tell them what happened. Convincing the elderly and infirm to sell out their estate to you from underneath the rest of their family. I grew up in a small farm town and this happened several times. Grandma and grandpa would get old and one of their kids would leave everything behind and work the family farm and live in the farmhouse with the expectation that they would take things over and preserve it for the next generation, something their now elderly parents had expressed for decades. An opportunist makes a few social calls and obtains a few signatures and adjustments to the will from extremely elderly people who don't even remember the names of their children, and just like that everyone is out on the street and said opportunist moves in. The elderly people have no clue what just happened. If your family owns any estate, put it in a trust with trustworthy board members, executors, so that con artists can't pull a fast one on your elderly family members and screw your family out of its legacy, convincing the elderly and infirm to sell out their estate to you from underneath the rest of their family. I grew up in a small farm town and this happened several times. Grandma and grandpa would get old and one of their kids would leave everything behind and work the family farm and live in the farmhouse with the expectation that they would take things over and preserve it for the next generation, something their now elderly parents had expressed for decades. An opportunist makes a few social calls and obtains a few signatures and adjustments to the will from extremely elderly people who don't even remember the names of their children, and just like that everyone is out on the street and said opportunist moves in. The elderly people have no clue what just happened. If your family owns any estate, put it in a trust with trustworthy board members, executors, so that con artists can't pull a fast one on your elderly family members and screw your family out of its legacy. This is exactly why my parents are giving the house to me. U.S. companies not giving employees at least a minimum of a month's worth of vacation in a year. Tons of employees don't even get vacation, and the standard for the ones that do get it seems to be 3 weeks, 15 days. Not a lot of time spread over a year. I had one employer try to offer me 2 weeks, so I required more before I'd accept the offer. Also, companies are moving to this unlimited PTO BS now. All it means is the company doesn't have to keep track of or pay out any accrued vacation. So it saves them money. But you better believe if an employee tries to take more than about 3 weeks, the company is gonna start asking why they are taking so much vacation. I think unlimited PTO is complete BS. My company limits it to the amount you previously had before it went into effect. That means a lot people don't get the additional weeks that they accrue at 5 years, 10 years, etc. Yet another reason not to stay at a company long-term. Not allowing another car to merge in traffic. Alternatively, knowing that a lane is ending ahead and waiting until the last second to merge into traffic so you can get 3 to 4 car lengths ahead of where you would have been, forcing cars behind you to slow down, brake when you cut them off, thus making the resulting traffic jam that you tried to avoid even worse. That's called zipper merging and is the most effective method to merge. Otherwise, people aren't using both lanes and you get longer backups. Edit, it's what you're supposed to do. Ads on videos that make you wait, but don't count up the time while they're buffering. YouTube's bad for this. Channel 4, in the UK, is even worse. 5-hour ads that buffer and cannot be skipped intensify that something uniquely YouTube. For some reason, I once had the entirety of the music video for Everlong as an unskippable ad. For-profit medicine. For-profit prisons. Anything involving money. Capitalism requires 3 things of transactions, that they be bilateral, voluntary, and informed. Both private medicine and privatized prisons aren't really voluntary. The first essentially isn't and the second clearly isn't. This means markets will not function properly and thus shouldn't be used. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually really like the ideas of capitalism, it's just the practice that can be problematic because we forget why and in what context it works. Okay, now, since you can see that medicine isn't really voluntary, let's think about rent. Let's think about the requirement that I sell myself at an hourly rate to a capitalist. Sure, I can choose where I live, and I can choose who I sell my labor to, just like I can choose which doctor I go to, but those transactions aren't really all that voluntary. Bringing a baby into a movie theater or expensive restaurant. Not only are you basically telling everybody, I'm an inconsiderate fucktard, but you're also shitting on those parents who were considerate enough to find a babysitter so they can have an enjoyable night out, and trust me, they hate your guts too. I also have no problem calling you out, so you better pray I'm never around when you pull this stupid shit. Tell us some stories of when you called people out. Not him, but yesterday while watching a movie. The people to the side and behind me wouldn't shut up after the movie started. So I got sick of it about 20 minutes into the movie, and during a transition scene, I said, okay guys, shut up and watch the movie, or get the fuck out. And the only time I heard them again was laughing at the funny scenes. Taking a really long look at everything at the salad bar. It takes me ages to decide, dude. Being the one person in a group project that doesn't contribute anything and still putting your name on it at the end. I'd actually prefer that than the person who half-asses it so badly that it pulls your grade down. I'd rather just do the whole damn thing myself so I know it's done right. Thank you for watching. I hope that you liked this video. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this one.